Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chantex Multimedia live stream, streaming live to your device all the way from Brisbane on this third day of February 2021. Hey, it's been a wonderful day out there today, but our apologies for bringing to you the late edition today, as we know that many times there are community functions and events which we need to attend to. On those days, we will probably bring around the 2 p.m. mark, but most of the days we are on air at 10 a.m. But once again, it's wonderful to have your company. It's so much that we need to talk about. And of course, today's main feature would be the real estate update with Usha Chandra of Globenet Realty. But before we go any further, let's take a very good look at what the weather's got in store for the rest of today. With that, let's welcome Dilraj.
Good afternoon, everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 29 degrees. Brisbane area is partly cloudy with medium chances of showers. There is a chance of thunderstorm in the afternoon and evening. Wind southeasterly 15 to 20 km per hour, becoming light in the evening. Fire danger is low to moderate. Sun protection is recommended till 4 p.m. and UV index is predicted to reach 12, that is extreme. Till tomorrow, stay safe and enjoy the rest of.
And thank you very much for that, Dilraj, for that update. Well, right now we'll go into the news for today. And wow, there's some volatile news that's happening out there. Well, you want to find out, you need to stay tuned to find out about all the things that are happening there today. But first of all, let's get an update from our Premier.
Metagenics. It's my great pleasure to welcome the Deputy Premier of State Development here to a fantastic local company in my electorate. Metagenics, I should acknowledge Paula and Peter. Paula's here, and Peter too, who've kindly invited us to Metagenics. Of course, Metagenics employs about 400 people in Australia and New Zealand, 80% in Queensland. And the Deputy Premier is making a fantastic announcement today about an investment in this local business, which will mean more local jobs here in my electorate, but also it means that they've got an extra tablet line and product, which means we can not only stamp Made in Queensland on it, but more importantly, made in the Nudgee electorate, I'm hoping. But I'll invite the Deputy Premier to say a few words. Thanks for coming out.
Full to see that happening in the north side of Brisbane, and proud of you, Leanne.
Thanks so much, Leanne. It is wonderful to be partnering with Metagenics, a proud Queensland company, to assist them to add a new tablet making and coding facility here at the facility. It's a $1.1 million new investment, creating jobs here, but also shoring up local supply chains for these products. We're very proud to be partnering with them. It will see them add 24 more ongoing jobs to the 365 employees they currently have, 80% of which are in Queensland. So this will see more Queenslanders working with Metagenics, producing tablets locally so that we're less reliant on global supply chains. Pauline?
Thank you. We're very, very grateful for the support of the Queensland Government. We are a proud Queensland company. We're just over 35 years old and we came from very, very humble beginnings, and this funding means a lot to this company. It will help reinforce our quality position. It will support local innovation. It will secure our supply lines, and it will secure jobs for our current employees, and it will create new jobs, new local jobs. It will give us greater control over our operations, which means that we'll be able to continue to provide our customers with quality natural medicines and deliver on our mission to help people live happier, healthier lives. And importantly, it will bring more manufacturing capability into Queensland, which we are really excited to be a part of. Thank you.
Well, would you take questions? What is Metagenics? Is that a stretch frame? It's a range of
So that's wonderful news for the north side of Brisbane, and so proud to see Leanne Lennard there. Of course, having worked with her for over the years at so many community functions and events in Nudgee and Banyo area, a true rep of the region, of the area, and it's wonderful to see her as the multicultural minister there as well. So she's done some amazing work out there. Well, right now, today's, as I said, is some very volatile scenes that we're going to bring to you today. It is just amazing to see this kind of things actually happening. Well, right now, but first of all, JobKeeper. As we know it's going to end. It's going to end in March. That's what the federal government's been saying. And as per the report from yesterday, the Prime Minister said that, and of course the Treasurer said that they have no plans of extending that beyond that date. And of course, our Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk, has been rightfully asking that it be extended because he has seen firsthand what it can do to support the local economy, support the small to medium businesses who can employ people, and that gets the wheel of economy turning. So, but here's the situation. Here's what New South Wales Premier has to say on that situation.
So the Queensland Premier has called for JobKeeper to be extended to the tourism industry. I know the Treasurer has suggested that is making taxpayers bankroll the border closure. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, the whole point that New South Wales has been so strong in keeping borders open within Australia is to prevent exactly what the Queensland Premier is now complaining about. When you unnecessarily close state borders, you lose jobs, you create hardship, you impact people's mental health and well-being. There is no reason why certain premiers move too quickly in shutting out New South Wales. There is nowhere in the state that's a hotspot, and even if there was, why should people from other parts of the state be prevented from moving freely? Now, she is now the victim of a policy that she put in place herself. And all I say is we need to think about these issues. We need to think about compassion. We need to think about jobs, and we need to think about freedoms as Australians. Because yes, I completely support having strong borders to Australia. But as for all of us within Australia, we're all Australians and we should be moving around freely within our country. Think about the jobs in tourism, the airline industry, hospitality, on compassionate grounds. Some families weren't even able to reunite over Christmas and New Year's. Every time you make a decision, and I know the Deputy Premier and I always really think hard before we make a decision because it weighs heavy on us. A decision you take can impact someone's livelihood, it can impact their health, it can impact their mental health and well-being, and that's why in New South Wales we like to find that balance between keeping the virus at bay but also keeping the economy going and keeping our citizens moving freely, and I wish other states would consider that approach as well.
And other states should consider that approach as well. Of course, we know it has been hard times. Many people, wanted to see their loved ones, including us. Many people have been in that position. But when you look at the overall, the health, when it comes to health, nothing ever comes close. So, health comes first. Wealth and everything, families get together, it can all follow. But if you are not healthy, if you lose your health, if you're gone, you're gone. So, putting an importance on the health sector is always great. So, no matter what you do, it's always hard to please everyone. But, when you look at the overall things, many times some decisions are tough. They are tough on families, they are tough on the community, but they are in the overall interest of the people and the community at large in the long run. And that is what you need to understand. And this is some of the topics that we discussed this morning at the very important meeting at the police headquarters. So much happening out there in the community, and it's good to see, many things coming on the table and being discussed openly and freely. So, there are so many things when you look at the bigger picture. You sit in your little own corner, you'll have that tunnel vision, you'll think about that. But when you come to these kind of forums and when everything's put on the table, everyone brings their views on, then you get to see, okay, here's the other kind of point, other point of view that I can look at or I can share. Well, right now, while we are on Queensland, New South Wales, sorry, not Queensland, New South Wales, first up. So let's see what are the restrictions there at this point in time.
To say that New South Wales continues its run of zero community transmissions, and pleasingly overnight we did have nearly 12,000 people who came forward to get tested. And it's always pleasing when we see those testing rates go up. It gives us confidence that the community is responding and that people with the mildest of symptoms are coming forward and getting tested or following health advice and making sure they're isolated until they get results, or otherwise until health deems it safe for them to leave their homes. It is a positive position we're in, and therefore today I wanted to reiterate that if things continue on the path they are, that from Friday week we will be reverting back to the 2 square metre rule. So any setting now, whether it's a hospitality venue or a place of worship that's subject to the 4 square metre rule, will be reverting to the 2 square metre rule. So unless there is something very unexpected that occurs between now and next week, that is what will occur from Friday week. And I'm making these comments today to provide certainty to business, to make sure that people are prepared and can take advantage of that situation, barring any unexpected shocks or any unexpected outbreaks that may occur between now and then. This means it's really important for us to maintain our vigilance, to always be on guard, but I do also want to flag that we are considering our mask wearing policy in view of the position New South Wales is in. I can say that moving forward, mandatory masks on public transport will continue. We think this gives people assurance to get around their daily business, and to also, given the fact that you're in an enclosed space for a long period of time, just to maintain that level of assurance. But if there's no evidence of community transmission, we would recommend or revert back to previous mask wearing policy, but that's yet to be determined. So whether it's a hospitality worker or a place of worship, you still need to wear a mask until at least next week when we consider that position.
So masks are still mandatory in those kind of places that see outlined today, including places of worship, public transport, etc. And they might be going back to the 2 square metre rule instead of the 4 square metre rule that is in place now if there is no community transmission. So that is wonderful news. Now, the volatile news that I've been talking about is in the next 3 clips. So first of all, we go to the America, where in that we saw the pillar of an announcer or one of the hosts walks off a set. So, when we talk about professionalism, when we talk about, being able to keep your cool when interviewing people, everyone has a different opinion. Everyone is entitled to their point of view. You don't have to agree with other people, but when you're discussing and when you're in the public forum, what shall your behavior be?
Let me ask you this. Do you think that this should be temporary because it appears to be permanent? Could you make an argument that it is temporary?
What?
Could you make an argument that this could be a temporary banning rather than permanent?
No, I want it to be a permanent because you know what? They did this because I'm revealing all the evidence on Friday of all the election fraud with these machines. So I'm sorry if you think it's not
Mike,
it's real.
Can I ask our producers, can we get out of here, please? I don't want to have to keep going over this.
Actually,
we,
Mike,
Newsmax, have not been able to verify any of those allegations that you're...
Mike, hold on a second. Everybody hold on a second. Mike, hold on 1 second. Let's talk a little bit about just what is happening overall.
And there you go, the presenters off the set, leaving the chair vacant. So, interesting kind of scenes that are seen these days. Well, if we can have that with our presenters, why can't we have that with our police? Well, right now, here's Barnaby Joy's face-off.
The Labor Party's net zero emissions by 2050 means net zero seats for the Labor Party in regional areas. This is, once more, believing the whole world is Balmain. We know to make their equation equal zero that it's going to come out of agriculture and come out of the jobs in the mining resource sector, especially the coal mining sector. The member for Hunter is about to lose his job.
Barnaby, what you weren't prepared to do this morning was concede that both the National Farmers Federation and Meat and Livestock Australia both have commitments to zero net emissions
How are you going to get there? How are you going to get there?
2030.
How are you going to get there?
We'll just keep you waiting on that.
Mate, they're going to keep you waiting. They're going to keep you waiting. Mate, what a load of rubbish. What an absolute load of pig manure. He's going to reach out to you.
Why?
They're run by the Greens. He's run by the Greens. They're lefty Greens.
See, as I said, you're a Scud missile looking for a political
he thought of that like all last night.
Are you that ignorant that you don't understand that?
Well, tell me how you're going to reduce the emissions. What's the methane technology, Cyclone?
Because, well, they do it through diet.
Oh, through diet.
They do it through
injections.
So
what are they eating now? Rocks.
Look, Barnaby, stop making a fool of yourself. There will be no coal miner lose a job as a result.
There you go. There is no coal miner that's going to lose their job. He just said it. There is no coal miner that's going to lose their job. Do you believe that? Can you believe this guy? No coal miner is going to lose their job, but we're going to get to net zero emissions. What a load of rubbish.
No, go.
So there you go. That's our politicians, and what a face-off there, and in front of so many cameras, and you know, sometimes if you didn't see it, you wouldn't believe it. Well, if it can happen to Barnaby Joyce, it could also happen to Tanya Plibersek, as you'll see in the next shot.
Are you making any big announcements?
Yes, I'm actually telling them that the PM has to stop you spreading these crazy conspiracy theories.
Did you hear about Professor Clancy? You've got to listen to our most senior immunologist, Tanya. It's Professor Robert Clancy. Listen to him. Go and get his stuff. Read what he's saying, and you'll find out, and then you can come and apologise to us. Okay?
My mum lives in your electorate, and I don't want her exposed to people who are not going to be vaccinated because of these crazy conspiracy theories that you're spreading.
You're the one doing that because you are the one spreading misinformation. Right? You've got to listen to the professors, listen to our most senior immunologists.
So your Prime Minister is wrong, is he?
Our Prime Minister is 100% right.
He agrees with you.
I'm saying you are wrong.
Scott Morrison agrees with you, does he, Craig?
Listen to, I'm not going to, my Prime Minister will speak for himself. Listen to the words of our most senior immunologist. Today, in the Sydney Morning Herald, he has said, our health advisor has to be our most senior credentialed immunologist, Professor Robert Clancy, and he has said, Sydney Morning Herald today, Craig Kelly is absolutely right.
Does the Prime Minister agree with you?
Well, I don't know. You have to ask the Prime Minister. But I know.
Does he support you spreading this stuff?
Well, I'm not spreading anything. You are the people in the Labor Party that are spreading smear and slime and innuendo. It has to stop.
We're supporting what the government line is.
It has to stop. Tell your people in Labor to stop spreading disinformation about him because they are the ones causing confusion in the public and they are the ones that need to be reined in. Okay?
I agree with your Prime Minister and your Health Minister.
Well, of course I agree with my Prime Minister. And my
so people should get vaccinated?
Of course, everyone should go to the doctor. Young children, Tanya, should not wear masks. And that is what our health officers have decided, right? Our health officers in this country agree with me because we don't have mask mandates for children under 12.
Is the Chief Medical Officer engaged in crimes against humanity?
Of course not, Tanya. But we should make sure, I want to make sure that these drugs that are being used overseas are available to Australia. And I hope we could do this in a bipartisan manner.
Inefficacious?
No, I'm sorry, you're obviously not up with the science.
Yeah,
you need to read the science. No, don't. You need to listen to the most senior qualified immunologist in this country, Professor Robert Clancy. Right? That's who you need to listen to. Forget listening to Mark Butler, forget listening to Albo. These blokes have got no idea. They've got to follow the science.
From your Health Minister and your Chief Medical Officer.
Okay.
Wish you would.
Come this way, right this way, buddy.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. There you have it. That's the politicians for you. Well, of course, they've got a point to make, and there's all those Jenners out there. So, you know, making that point in front of them. Well, right now, let's go to UK, where Boris Johnson pays tributes to that magic man.
Captain Sir Tom Moore was a hero in the truest sense of the word. In the dark days of the Second World War, he fought for freedom, and in the face of this country's deepest post-war crisis, he united us all. He cheered us all up, and he embodied the triumph of the human spirit. It's quite astonishing that at the age of 100, he raised more than £32 million for the NHS on his own, and so gave countless others their own chance to thank the extraordinary men and women who have protected us throughout this pandemic. He became not just a national inspiration, but a beacon of hope for the world. Our thoughts today are with his daughter Hannah and all his family, and his legacy will long live after him.
And the legacy will long live because, $36 million, pounds is a lot of money. And he had no idea that, what he set out would reach up to those kind of heights. But amazing work that he did. Well, right now, the other sad story before we go to the main feature for today is the protest that's coming out of Myanmar. And this might sound familiar to you when you have a look at the scenes as well. People are protesting against the capture of the country's leader, and they're doing this. The protest is being led by beating pots and pans. So there goes all the pots and pans. This is happening in Myanmar. The protest were for the capture of the country's leader in what's known as the coup. Well, right now, let's go to the main feature for today. And that's Real Estate Update with Usha Chandra of Globenet Realty. Real estate is the world. And once again, welcome to the show, Usha.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on your show again, Umesh.
And it's wonderful to have you back on the show. And as we know, interest rate is on hold. And so that's the news that came out on Tuesday.
Yes, definitely interest rate is on hold, and that's exceptional news for our first home buyers, investors, and all other buyers as well.
Well, now that January is behind us, so in terms of real estate, we have seen many news coming out about the prices being very high or holding very well. So how did the first month of 2021 fare?
Exceptional. The housing values continued to rise for the first month of 2021 with CoreLogic National Home Values Index 0.9% over the month. The January movement takes Australian home values to a fresh record high. Housing values have surpassed pre-COVID levels by 1% and the index by 0.7% higher than the previous September peak. Every capital city and broad rest of regional recorded a rise housing values over the month, ranging from 2.3% surge across Darwin to a relatively mild 0.4% rise in Sydney and Melbourne.
Wow, so that's amazing. If you look at the January movement, which they said, which is a fresh record high. Wow, that is amazing, and that house values have surpassed the pre-COVID levels. And of course, it is 0.7% higher than the previous peak in 2017. So it says that on 2017 we had the very peak, and even after the COVID and everything like that, we have surpassed that. So, it's done quite well. And when you're looking at those surges throughout the major cities, which is quite amazing.
Extremely amazing news for property industry.
So we're looking at all the major capitals, how did we fare as of 31st of January?
31st of January, the records show Sydney market, the increase in the month was 0.4%, the annual was 2%, and the total returns was 4.6%, and the median value of the properties were 879,000, whereas Melbourne was 4.4% as well, and it was annual was minus 2.1%, and the total returns was 1.1%, and the median price is 692,000, whereas Brisbane was 0.9% for the month, and 4.4% for the annual, and the total returns was 8.3%, which was quite high, and average median price was 527,000. Adelaide was 0.9%, the annual was 6.5%, and the total returns was 10.8%, and the median price was 473,000. Perth was 1.6%, the annual was 3.4%, and the total returns was 8%, and median price was 484,000. Hobart was 1.6%, and the annual was 6.8%, and the total return was 12.1%, and median price was 524,000. Darwin was 2.3% for the month, and annual was 11.4%, was quite high, and the total returns was 17.3%, and average price was 426,000. Canberra was 1.2%, and annual was 8.5%. The total returns was 13.5%. Median price is 686,000. So it's very comparable to the markets in Melbourne as well. The combined city capitals was 0.7% for the month, and the annual was 1.7%, so the total returns was 5.1%, and the median price overall was 659,731. A combined regional was 1.6%, and the annual was 7.9%. was regional was quite good actually compared to the cities. 12.8% was the total returns, and 428 almost 429,000 is the median value. So the national average was 0.9% for the month, and then annual was 3%, and the total returns was 6.6%, and the national price was 583,000. So that shows that's quite a bit of increase there. Apart from Melbourne was minus, but in the total returns was by 1.1% for
So when you look at the both end of the spectrum, and as we've discussed in the past few of the episodes as well, it's Darwin and Melbourne on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and both like in this case as well, if you look at the annual, so Melbourne is -2, whereas Darwin is 11.4 plus. So,
Exactly.
On the opposite ends of the spectrum, these two have always stood out through the charts lately. And Brisbane's been quite steady, so that's not bad. But overall, if you look at regional areas, 12.8% and the total return, that's pretty good, and the annual change of 7.9, that is quite high. I think that's mainly driven by the figures from Darwin. If you look at 11.4, so that's had a big impact on the overall chart.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people are preferring to live in regional areas because of COVID, and a lot of people are going away from cluster homes and all those sort of things, and they like a little bit of land, so they don't mind traveling fair distance as well, because they would prefer to live in regional areas.
So, after all this, what is the trend that is now, coming out? When we're looking at the capital cities and of course on the regional cities, so what has been a trend?
Oh, the trend, the evidence is quite clear there. Regional housing values rose at more than twice the pace of the capital city markets. According to CoreLogic, combined regional index was up by 1.6% over the month, while capital city values was only 0.7%. Since the onset of COVID-19 in March last year, regional housing values have surged 6.5% higher, while the capital values are down by minus 2% over the same time frame. The largest states are seeing regional home values rising at more than 3 times the pace of their capital city counterparts. Home values across regional Victoria and regional New South Wales rose 1.6% and 1.5% respectively in January, compared to with a 0.4% increase in home values across the Melbourne and Sydney.
So, would the regional areas, as you've mentioned, that maybe people don't like living in clusters and are probably moving to wide open spaces of the regional areas, or do you reckon that's a trend? And what about immigration? Would that have some impact on the regional growth?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people who come from overseas, they are pushed to regional areas because of the point system, and it's a point system as well. At the moment, we are not getting too many overseas people that are going to regional areas. A lot of our own people who are living here, they are going to regional areas because they prefer a different lifestyle.
So a different lifestyle is what's attracting people towards the regional areas, but I would have thought also maybe as you have mentioned, the point system for the immigration as well would have some impact on it as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so what is also happening over houses and units. So now we have looked at the capital cities versus regional. Now if we compare, say, maybe the houses to apartments and units, because people are many times worried about whether they invest in houses or in units. So what has been the trend in this comparison?
It's becoming increasingly evident that houses are outperforming units. At a national level, house values have risen by 3.5% over the past 6 months, while unit values are unchanged. More recently, the past 3 months has seen every capital city record a stronger result for houses over units. Demand for units has diminished through COVID-19 amidst record low levels of investor participation and changing living preferences. At the same time, supply levels are heightened in some precincts, while demand and supply remain imbalanced. We are likely to see units continue to underperform relatively to detached housing markets.
So, we're looking at houses going to outperform the unit market. So, that's quite evident. And a while back, before the pandemic hit, I think the apartments and units were becoming very popular. So, what's changed?
The COVID was the main changing factor there. A lot of people were investing in apartments because they didn't want to do the yards, gardens, etc. They had another lifestyle sort of thing there, living in apartments. But because of COVID, a lot of people are changing now, especially people with families, children. They want to live in houses rather than apartments and units.
Okay, so that is quite evident in this point in time that the housing is, the houses are going to outperform the unit market. All right, so the other part of the equation in real estate is the rental markets. So what's the rental dynamic at this point in time?
The rental market hasn't changed a lot. There's quite a lot of demand and supply at the moment. As the demand in houses are quite limited, and units, there's quite a lot of units on the market for rental. The rental demand has transitioned towards detached or lower density houses since the pandemic is in sales as well, apart reflecting disruption to rental demand from overseas migration, but also the stress of changed work conditions caused by COVID restrictions in the industry sector that are traditionally more aligned with rental demand. Additionally, with more people working from home, demand for larger housing options has lifted. Unit rents in Melbourne and Sydney are down by 7.8% and 5.6% respectively over the last year, but some positive news for landlords that the rates of decline of easing across these markets. In fact, Sydney unit rents posted the first month-to-month rise in January, 0.8% since March last year, and Melbourne units held over firm for the month. Unit rents across Brisbane and Hobart have been on the downward trend through COVID. However, recent months have shown a similar trend of rising rents as conditions start to stabilize. Part-time job numbers have now fully recovered back to pre-COVID levels, and more businesses are embarking on return to work, which could be helping to support renewed demands towards inner city rental accommodation. Additionally, with rental rates now lower for inner city units, improved rental affordability could be attracting more people back to inner city.
So, people may be coming back to inner city, and if you look at the JobKeeper, which is going to, by the looks of it, and by the announcement from the federal government that it might not get extended past March, and now, the records there say that the part-time job numbers have now fully recovered back to pre-COVID levels. So that is good news. Once that happens, people will start moving once again closer into the cities, and the demand for the units and apartments might once again increase. But as it stands, even in the rental scene, houses are outperforming the units and markets. But generally, overall, how has the rental market been in terms of, if you're looking at arrears and other things? So how did tenants cope up with paying rent in this time?
Pretty good. I mean, our office hasn't seen that much problems in tenants paying the rent. Our rental arrears is pretty low. I mean, we are controlling it fairly well. So we don't see any issues in tenants not paying the rent.
Okay. So when we're looking at this rental growth, looking all across Australia, so which areas have done much better than other areas?
Our area, the North Boondall, has done very well compared to other areas. I think a lot of surrounding suburbs from the city has done quite well. There is still a lot of demand for rentals in houses. There's a couple of apartments coming and getting filled up as well. But a lot of demands are still for houses. I mean, we haven't got that many houses available for rent, so it depends on supply and demand. And the other thing is that the rents we are attracting is quite high. I mean, we are getting maybe $20-30 more for the properties which are coming on the market for rent.
Okay, so geographically, the Perth and Darwin stand out from the largest rental increases. Is the news there? Well, moving on, could we have your agency report, please? So maybe if we go look at the sales and then listings, rentals and open houses.
Yes, I mean, we have got a couple of listings. So we have got about 5 open houses this Saturday. We listed one property yesterday. We have got over 25-30 inquiries on that property, and it's on the market for $499. So a lot of people are looking for houses to live in. We have got a couple of investment properties where the owners are looking to sell, and there's quite a high demand for properties in our area. So we're looking for more listings. I'm pretty sure we'll sell a couple of the open houses on the weekend. So the sales are happening, but we are still in search for more listings.
Okay, so good to see that open houses and all are happening right at this point in time, and even after the COVID restrictions and everything. So, what's the case with the inspections at this point in time? So, are there any restrictions that, or any rules and protocols that need to be observed?
Yes, absolutely. We are still following the COVID rules and regulations. We are allowing a few people at a time in the house, and they have to use the sanitizer. They have to register their details before they are allowed into the properties. So when they leave, they use the hand sanitizer, they use the pen, and sometimes a lot of people are still using their own pens to write their details. So we are following those protocols.
Okay, so right now in the finishing part, what's happening in the community, because your agency is quite involved with the local communities, so schools and fights and other things. So what's happening in the community? Anything at all?
Yes, we have got. We're supporting Bundle State School again. They're doing their another fundraising sort of event, like a charity event. So we are sponsoring that event as well, and we do sponsor quite a few other community events from Bundle Neighborhood Watch, which is a very prominent group which looks after the area there, and we do support our schools, the local schools, a lot as well.
And thank you very much for that wonderful report for this week. And it's good to see your local commitment and your involvement within the local community, which is wonderful. And of course, there's so many things that's happening around there. Of course, we know that we always have the Zilmia Multicultural Festival, the Bundle School Fight, and many other local activities that are involved there. So, is there anything else that you'd like to say in conclusion?
No, it's just stay safe, and thank you so much for having me on the show, and hope to see you all next week.
Wonderful to have you on the show, and it's good to see that the real estate market is holding well, and that it has done well. And overall, I think that even the tenants that have maintained the rent during these times as well, that is wonderful to see. So until next week, is goodbye from us.
Thank you.
Globenet Realty. Globenet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Usha Chandra, Director of Globenet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetraltor.com.au. Globenet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. Globenet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is the world. Right now we just had the latest real estate update with Usha Chandra, with all that very, very informative and up-to-date information on real estate, with all the facts and figures about the percentage change and all across the comparison between all the major cities, then the comparison of the houses, then of course the comparison of the houses versus the units, and then of course looking at the rental yields and the returns and the vacancy rates, etc. So wonderful to have that. So, well, right now it's time to look at some of the functions and events happening right here in Brisbane. Let's take a look. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful having your company, and as we know today was our late edition, and as we said, when we have some important functions and events to attend in the morning, we will come to the 2 p.m. spot, which is our late edition. And of course, in the weekend, we have our weekend edition, and once a month, we have the Music Junction, which has been very, very well accepted. And of course, don't forget that tomorrow, we will have the travel updates with Tanvi Goyal, and of course on Friday, the migration updates with Suman Dua. So it's all happening right here on Chentex Multimedia live stream services. Well, right now, there's one thing that I'd like to talk to you about before we go. Is GoPure's India Day Fair fundraising gala dinner, which is happening at Michael's Oriental Function Center on Friday, the 19th. Well, it's not long to go from 6:30 p.m. As you know, that it takes a lot of time and effort and money to host India Day Fair, and it is getting costlier by the year. So we need your support at this point in time. So if you haven't booked your ticket, please go ahead and book via Eventbrite. If you get a table together, it will be less for you. But if you buy individual tickets, you will be paying slightly more than what you would pay for the whole table if you booked one table in itself. Well, of course, it is a fundraiser, so the idea is to raise some funds so that India Day Fair could be hosted and presented in a grand manner. As we know that we do have a number of sponsors who come on board, and I'd like to thank each and every one of them for coming on board. I'd like to thank our platinum sponsors, Springfield City Group, and of course New Style Developments, and our gold sponsors are Dream Style Decorators and Bipel. And our silver is Rise Sleep Therapy and Gora Travel. And the event is supported by Peter Russo MP, Brisbane City Council, Ethnic Communities Council of Queensland, and Minister Leanne Linnard, and of course Australian Indian Radio and Brisbane Indian Times. And we're getting few more sponsors coming on board as well, and we'll keep you up to date. So with all that, until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me.